Hi fans of high quality entertainment. I'm going to be talking about rock and roll. And what is more rock and roll than the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? And first of all, I totally understand a lot of my viewers are, going to be saying stuff like, who cares? Because for many of us, we feel that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio, has been sort of a, yes, I know, sort of a joke. With some of the nominees that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and some of the nominees that still aren't, and they haven't even been nominated. And so, the nominees for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for 2019 are, and I'll just quickly give you my thoughts on them. Def Leppard. Definitely they need to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've sold millions of albums, which I think is, they're popular. So they have a lot of fans. And they play rock music. Devo. Abso-friggin-lutely. Janet Jackson, she's right there. No disrespect to her as an artist, but she's not really rock and roll. But that being said, I've seen worst or worse. I've seen worster nominees get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that I felt were not rock and roll at all. John Prine, I don't know much about him, but I know he was more of a folky. But that being said, I guess, rock music spans genres in a way, so I can kind of see that, I guess. Just like, Bob Dylan isn't necessarily rock and roll, but I mean, obviously he belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. LL Cool J. See, this is where I have absolutely nothing against any artist. I really don't. But LL Cool J, should he be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when Motorhead hasn't even been nominated yet? MC5, once again, I'm not, I know their history and all that, never really listened to their music, never. But yes, they are rock and roll, so if they get in, good for them. Radiohead, absolutely. Rage Against the Machine, I've never got into their music, but I think they're rock and roll, so yes. Roxy Music, absolutely. I don't think they're one of the most popular bands in the world, but I mean, they did well. They sold quite a few albums, and Brian Eno, of course, went on to produce U2 and whatever. And okay, Rufus featuring Chaka Khan. No, I'm sorry. It's just, it's the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame, or whatever you want to call it. And once again, you're a racist or whatever. It has nothing, like Sly and the Family Stone. They're not really even rock and roll, but I feel they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because even though I love rock music, Sly and the Family Stone, they were in there, like, music-wise. James Brown. Stevie Nicks. As long as Lindsey Buckingham is also nominated. They're nominated together. Sure. She had a very successful solo career. The Cure, absolutely, a big band in the 80s, and plus I love them. The Zombies, I feel, yeah, they've been around for years. They had some hits, and their Oracle and whatever it's called, I have that, and I enjoy it. It's really good. Todd Rundgren, oh my God, what a talented guy. He produced Sparks' first album in 1971, so he belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just for that. But no, he is a very talented man, a lot of great solo albums, and producer Todd Rundgren, Sparks, and the Tubes, many others. Very talented guy. He belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for sure. And I just made a list of some of the many artists that still have not even been nominated, as far as I know, into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I actually had the Moody Blues down, but then I realized, oh, they actually got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year. And it's really sad, too, when a band like Yes, who should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame years ago, they finally get in, of course, after Chris Squire passes away. So it's kind of sad when it takes so long for some of these great acts to get in. So some of the artists not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet, or even nominated, although LL Cool J is nominated, include, like I said, Motorhead, Iron Maiden. They've sold millions of albums, and they're still going strong. And some of these artists I'm not even fans of. For instance, Bon Jovi. I thought, even though, along with Nickelback, they're one of my least favorite rock bands, but even I felt they should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame years ago, and they finally are in. Judas Priest, Blue Oyster Cult, still not even nominated. Jethro Tull, one of the biggest live acts in the 70s, and they've sold millions of albums. They're still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. King Crimson, Pat Benatar, one of the superstars of the 80s. She's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Madonna is. The Guess Who. That's always the one that irks me. They had huge hits in the late 60s, early 70s, a lot of great albums. I feel Burton Cummings is one of the greatest rock singers of all time, and still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And band member Randy Bachman went on to Bachman Turner Overdrive. They're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they were huge. Three Dog Night. This one also kind of irks me, because Three Dog Night, you know, is known as three lead singers, but they also had a band, a great band. And they were one of the biggest acts in the early 70s. They sold millions of albums, a lot of hit songs, and very talented singers. I feel they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And one I didn't have here on the list is Grand Funk Railroad. Once again, huge band in the early 70s, and still not even nominated into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And this one, you know, some people are going to say, no, they don't belong in there, but I feel they do. The Monkees. Yes, they were a fabricated band, you know, for the TV show, but that didn't mean they didn't have talent, and they did record at least one album all on their own, Headquarters, which was excellent, and they had a lot of big hits, and I love Monkees music, so I feel they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I would love your thoughts in the comment section below on who you think is missing, who you think shouldn't be in there. You can disagree with me, just, you know, don't be rude about it, please. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.